Welcome to the Strong for Life podcast. I'm your host, Conor O'Shea, and I really appreciate you tuning in. If you are enjoying these episodes, I'd really appreciate you taking a moment and rating it 5 stars on Spotify or on Apple or whatever podcast platform you use. This is going to allow more people to find this information. Without further ado, let's jump into today's show. All right, folks. So super excited to talk to Ryan today about all things injury related. So we're going to I think it's going to be interesting to talk to Ryan about his injury history, when he does get hurt, how he responds to them. And a lot of the questions that came in is how to maybe avoid injuries in the first place, but then when they do come up, how to actually work through them correctly. And then also the worry and the anxiety around getting hurt. Something I definitely dealt with a lot working as a personal trainer, hurting my back and then worrying about not being able to work and make money. So yeah, I think this would be a good thing for you to jump into, mate. Do you want to you've never gotten injured before in your life
Never,
to date, right?
ever. It always, I don't know what it is, man. I do know what it is. I've lived hard. I have not held back. I will say it that way. I've been injured a lot throughout the years. Don't regret it. At the time, I did, but I don't regret it because I think that the tipping points in my life, the pivotal learning points in my life have been thanks to those injuries. I'm not suggesting people get injured, okay? If you can help it, don't get injured. 18 years old, had just graduated from high school. I had plans on going to a particular college. I was in martial art practice. A guy fell on my leg when I was stretching, and I tore a ligament in my knee, and I had to have surgery. So that's the first one. So
how long did that take you to recover from?
That took a long time, actually. And the reason why, because I was super stupid. I ended up going to the state college because I couldn't go to the college I wanted to go to. So long story, I won't get into it, but 18, took off. I was being silly. My leg was in after surgery, and I was in this huge leg brace. And I tripped and fell downstairs with this leg brace on and actually injured it again. It was super stupid. Anyway, because I wasn't being careful, because I was being an 18-year-old who thought that he knew something, and I'm fine and I'll do it. Jump to the next major injury. The next major injury was in judo, and I was thrown in a competition and I had a slap tear, and that was in my right shoulder, and I had reconstructive surgery on that. I was 31 years old, and I followed everything that my PT, my physical therapist, my doctor, and my physical therapist told me to do, and it was great. And it was actually good because there were some other issues within my body that I wasn't actually aware of. And during PT, we actually worked on fixing those up, core stability, things like that. So that was actually great. And so that was a pivotal part of things where I realized, okay, I can't be doing things the way I was before. And so, 30-year mark. And basically every 10 years, I just decide to have major injuries, I think is what I do. So
when
yes.
you were 31, were you going was that kind of the first time because your approach now seems very, everything I've learned from you is very moderate, but through your 20s,
I was hardcore. Sorry to interrupt you, Connor. I apologize. Yeah. I know where you're going with this. I was extremely hardcore. I mean, yeah. So this was when judo was my life, but I was also training. I was involved with a fitness organization at the time where I would train twice a day doing that stuff. And I would train twice a day in my martial art. And I was teaching. And
Whoa.
so I was demonstrating movements plus training in the fitness realm as well as my martial arts. I was doing two martial arts at the time. Judo was my thing, of course, but I also was doing some some striking stuff as well. I had to get it in. I just had to get it in, you know. I was had to do everything, and so this is a very very busy time in my life, with my wife and my daughter. Um, she'd just been born, so yeah. But I made a promise to my wife that I would actually stop competing, um, which was very difficult for me. But on the other side of the coin, though, it was actually a relief. I know this might sound a little weird, but like I didn't realize how much pressure I was giving myself to perform. And that forced me to reevaluate. And I think this is what I mean. I don't think I know. This is what I mean when I say that all of the injuries have been learning experiences for me in a positive way, because that actually forced me to take a look at where I was. And that helped me with GMB when we started GMB. When I got back after my rehab, and then I got Jarlo actually sent me a pair of gymnastic rings, and I got back to using gymnastic rings. So that was a lot of fun. Jump forward.
With that, mate,
Yes, go ahead.
just to go into that point. So if you went from training, like, is that like 4 or 5 hours a day and competing and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it was morning training, at least an hour. And then, I mean, judo is 2 hours alone, you know? And so there's only one day that I wouldn't go to judo during the week. So, yeah, I would say at least 5 hours a day.
So when you ended that, what was
Yeah.
that kind of 6 month period like? Because that's a huge like amount of release happening there. So was there some kind of way, like how did you fill that void, or was it just a case of going into other stuff, business, or yeah, would love to hear if there was anything happening at that phase.
I think for me, business was a big thing. I kind of jumped into that. I'm not a businessman. I should say a business person. That's more politically correct. But at the time, I still worked out, to be perfectly honest. I have my legs, but I really jumped into physical therapy. And in Japan, I was lucky that I was in Japan, because it's very different than the United States. I'm learning that very quickly, having moved back here recently, is that the physical therapy is part of the insurance in Japan. So I was going every single day to physical therapy, and meet with the guy, and he was fabulous. He was actually a judo guy himself, and so he worked on me, and he also gave me additional exercises to do during the day. So I just did that. But my training, of course, because I wasn't able to do any martial art, I went from like crazy kind of training to maybe 2 hours a day. And it was great. I actually was like, wow, this is an excuse for me not to have to work out. And it was weird, and it was great. It was exactly what I needed. Mentally, though, what I did is I actually went super deep back into my meditation, and going deeper within myself. During that time was a huge time of reflection, and it was great. I honestly, like, my relationship with my wife actually got better. She was pretty upset that I got injured, but our relationship was great because I was actually more present. I was actually around more, and not training so much. And she said that it was nice because I actually chilled out a bit, because I was competing a lot. I was very intense, extremely intense, and extremely competitive, to the point where um like I would get on the mat and all I wanted to do was tie you up in a pretzel. And so let's just say I dealt with some anger management issues that I had during that period. And again, later when I broke my ankle, but that's for the next story. So, yeah. But yeah, a
Mm,
big part of it was the focus change from a physical component to a mental component.
yeah. Do you want to go to your ankle injury then? And
Sure,
then,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. So just because I can't sit still as I sit here and rock in my chair as well when we're talking, um, was doing martial art, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, Shorin Kempo in Japan, martial arts, fitnessing all the time. I was like, hey, let's start skateboarding because that's a great idea to do. And that was quite possibly the dumbest idea I've ever had in my. I mean, I've had some other ones that are worse, but yeah, skateboarding is not my proudest moment. 2 days before I was supposed to go and teach a seminar, my family was going to go with me, and we were going to have a family trip in Europe. I went to a skate park with my buddy, and on the warm up on the ramp, the first warm up I did, my skateboard caught. The ramp was old and it was cracked. It was wooden, and the wheels caught on this crack at the very top, and I fell off. It's hilarious because I had helmet, elbow, wrist, and knee pads on. And when I fell, my ankle got caught, my foot got caught, and it broke to the outside, and my foot flipped completely behind. Anyway, um, obviously didn't go to Europe. Had emergency surgery. Ended up putting a plate with 7 screws on one side and then 2 bolts on the other side. I was in the hospital for, I believe it was either 12 or 13 days. I can't remember exactly how long. I was in the hospital for about 12, 13 days. And a lot more time to reflect on stuff. And again, it was great. Little things like, why was I skateboarding? It's very clear to me now why I was. I was searching for this whole other topic, but what I was searching for at that time in my life, to be honest, and using that as an outlet and reflect on that. But broke my ankle, couldn't go, had a cast. For a little while, had to do my rehab. I actually continued to do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, which might surprise people, but the way that I did it was different. And so rather than thinking I'm going to go back and do something silly and train with a bunch of people, I only met with my instructor and I worked around the injury. So, for example, I only worked on chokes in that 6-month period that I was doing rehab. Um, the reason why is I couldn't do any stand up. All I could do was sit on my butt. And so I didn't use my feet at all. Couldn't even really put my hooks in. Typically, for those of you who do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, know that you need your hooks in when you're doing back takes and things like that. I just worked the mechanics of certain things. I did chokes and I did arm bars. And I wasn't able to use my right leg when I was doing that. So it actually got me a lot better at awareness of having to use my body when it was in a compromised position. And I actually went back and strengthened my upper body at the time. Everything I did, though, was making sure that I would do no harm, no further harm to my ankle. Very diligent about my rehab again. Every single day I was going in. It was very intense for my ankle. My physical therapist knew what I did, G&B, as well, knew that I also wanted to get back to my martial arts. So we did everything to make sure that I could. Exactly 1 year later, well, exactly, it was like a year. It was actually 11 months, not exactly a year, but it was 11 months after my first surgery. I had surgery again to have all of the hardware taken out of my ankle. The reason being is that my surgeon felt that due to my active lifestyle, if I were to break my ankle again, um, it would just tear everything up if the hardware was still in there. So my ankle was strong enough to the point, my range of motion and everything, that they said, okay, let's take everything out. And now if you break your ankle again, at least you won't have everything in there and you'll be able to walk again. Because there was a big concern that due to the nature of the break, the severity of the break, I wouldn't be able to walk again. But yeah, again, after a year, I was fine. Range of motion was really good. Um, it really came down to making sure that I was focusing on the things I needed to focus on and not being stupid like I was. I mean, it was irresponsible of me to skateboard. And I can say that now. And I had a responsibility to my family, G&B, clients, and myself. And I was stupid. And so that was another learning opportunity for myself. And so that's now when I look at things in terms of, if it's okay moving towards, I still have a very active lifestyle. I still do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I still work out hard, but um, I'm not as reckless as I
Mm.
was before. And that's the difference. I'm very particular about who I pair up with when I do my martial art. I say no a lot. I I don't roll like I used to roll in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Is that difficult for you from a
Very, very,
personality standpoint? If you
very.
are really yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And this is where the mental training for me has really come to play. I'll tell you, I'll share this. So I'm currently injured, not to the point where anything like before. I had a growing pull, and
mm,
um, and it has sidelined me from doing the things that I want to do while I work on it. But here's the thing: me now taking my own advice that I give to other people and backing off from everything. I haven't done Brazilian Jiu Jitsu for a few weeks because my only goal right now is to figure out why this happened, to get it fixed, and to get it strong to where it won't happen again. And this has got me thinking, like, going deeper in, okay, what do I need to change in my life if I need to change in order to make sure that I'm focused on being able to do the things that I need to do for those who depend on me. And so even thinking about not just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but the way I've been training since coming to the United States. So this is what I want to say about it is a lot of people are like, oh, I was doing this and I got injured. They don't look at what else is going on in their lifestyle. They don't take the stress that could possibly be happening in their life right now into account, and saying that could also be a part of the cause. And this is what I'm really doing is we haven't even been in the United States 6 months, and I keep forgetting that. And so it's been extremely stressful for my family and myself.
yeah.
I don't think I've ever had this much stress in my life, to be perfectly honest. And for me to just jump back into everything and think that I'm going to be, whatever at a certain level that I was before, I need to take that into consideration as well. And I need to be kind to myself. And I need to understand that I got to look out for myself, is basically what I'm trying to say. And
Yeah.
so this little growing pull is like, okay, I get it. And I'm not the kind of person, who's like, oh, I'm just getting old. No, I don't believe in that. I'm like, no, there is a reason why this happened. And I know what's going on and why. And I just need to say, all right, okay. I'm going to back off right away, make sure that I don't make it worse. I'm going to meet with a professional to have that particular individual make sure that I'm on the right track. I'm going to have a communication with that person and make sure that he understands. And it's a he in this case. He understands exactly what's going on in my life and whatnot, so that we can get to work on this. And so basically trying to find a team of people over here now that I am in the United States that I can call on in the future as well. And I think that's also important is you can't do things alone. You need to have a support team, whether that be just a friend to, say, how you doing, or whatever. You can't wear the backpack and carry all that stuff yourself all the time. So again, I'm kind of going into the mental side of it, but I do think that everything is related. And I think that when you do have an injury, don't be hard on yourself. This is your body telling you, hey, we need to take a little step back. We need to figure out what's going on. It's not the end of the world. If you're still breathing and you're still alive, it's okay. Look at the long run here. You might not be able to do what you want to do today. And heck, you might not be able to do what you want to do the way you used to do. But if you're still able to just at least kind of do it, then hey, that's a good thing. And so that's kind of how I look at things now. I don't plan on being the best. I know I'm not going to be world champion of anything. I'm not concerned about that because nothing, I have no desire to compete at all anymore. The only thing I'm looking at is making sure that I can step on the mat. And I'm not just talking about martial art. I'm talking about my exercise and make sure that I can be there for the people that depend on me and look at it in a way where, what did I learn from this and how can I grow from it? And it's tough to look at it that way. And doesn't mean that it doesn't mean I'm positive about it all the time. I have my moments. But then I say, all right, let's move forward. Onward. That's my thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Onward. And
I think
really
you made a really important point there as well about looking at the big picture. Like moving your family is apparently one of the most stressful things you can do. And then that's happened in the last 6 months. So just kind of acknowledging that your overall stressors on your body are way higher now than they were in previous years.
Absolutely.
And just being kind to yourself. And then also, I like the way you're saying about working around stuff as well when it does come up, like even like your BJJ example, like with the ankle is maybe not everyone's going to have the awareness to do that, but definitely focusing on what you can do, not what you can't do. I think that's a really good
that's
point.
what it is. And it comes down to me, sorry again to interrupt you, but what can you control? What can you control? And typically, maybe you can control the physical aspect, but that aside, we always have the option of being able to control how we think. And if you do that and you say, all right, when I broke my ankle, I decided it's not that I'm going to be positive all the time. I'm simply going to focus on not being negative. And that's it. And that's what really kind of got me through. At the time, I remember I was reading Ryan Holiday's book about stoicism. The obstacle is the way. Good timing, but that was one thing, I try and think of, let's just not be negative, and it's tough, especially when, there's a lot of negativity around. I'm not just saying me, I'm saying like in general, if you happen to have negativity around yourself, be the person that says, all right, cool. I'm just not going to be negative. And really, that's all you can do because you can control that. And I think really that's it. I think start thinking about that and then right away say, okay, what can I do to move myself one step closer to where I want to be? That's it.
Yeah.
And just be like, all right, nailed it. next thing, and just keep doing that.
Yeah, for sure, mate. And then I think the point you made as well is just getting clear on what you will do and won't do in the future and being more strategic. Even like you
Exactly.
clearly want to roll with everyone, but
Oh
like
man,
it's
like I used
just
to
not
pick the
worth it.
biggest person. And this is my wife too. She would just like, why do you do that? Like I remember going into judo and I would, because we used to go to a lot of different judo places to train. Literally, I would choose the biggest guy there. And that was me just trying to prove myself. It is a whole other
Yeah.
thing, but it was just like, why you do that? She was always like, what do you do? Anyway, but like just that, now I'm just like, now I'm not going to pair up with some 21-year-old who's jacked and, whatever, former D1 wrestler or something. And I'm just like, and two, they come up to me and like, hey man, you want to roll? I'm like, no, I'm good. Thanks. They're like, what? I'm like, no, go have fun, man. So
Do you find working through that stuff now? Did you have to work through that psychologically versus trying to prove
it
yourself
was
physically? Was
psychological.
that?
Yeah, it was psychological
Mm,
because, you know, I mean, and again, we're kind of going into the weeds here, but like coming to the States and joining a brand new Brazilian Jiu Jitsu gym, dude, for like the first few months, it was like I was trying to have to prove myself, a brown belt going into this gym, and I would roll with these black belts doing really well, but holding back because I wanted to be respectful in the sense I was going hard, I'm not trying to say I was better than it, but it was just one of those things where it was like every day felt like when I was back in Japan as the only non-Japanese going to a brand new judo place and they're going, all right, let's see what this guy has.
mm-hmm.
And so the first couple months being here, it was crushing. I would go and I would roll with everybody, just because I didn't want to be like, And so I actually worked through that though. And so after it was like a couple months, like the head instructor and I were talking, he was like, you can just do whatever you want. You're good. Like we understand like your level and you don't have to prove anything now, I was like, okay, thank goodness. So since then it's been cool. But again, walking into
Yeah.
a new place, it's always going to be that way. It's always going to be that way. And so, that's a great example of me too, not taking my own advice, which I said I was going to do. I end up my old self, bring it. All right, let's do it, sort of thing. And so I'm
Yeah.
really, I'm trying to be better at saying, okay, what do I need? What do I need? And I think being selfish can be a good thing and is necessary from time to time.
Very good. So to wrap up today's episode, you would say basically, first of all, try to avoid, for me anyway, all the injuries are always me doing dumb stuff. So
That's
trying
what it
to
is.
avoid the initial issue. And then when it does crop up, look at it as an actual opportunity. So what can you learn?
Yes.
You were saying you worked on your technique, you worked around
Yes.
the injury, you also worked on
Yes.
your upper body strength when you did your ankle. And then it also was a way of not being so hard on yourself, which I think is a super
Right.
important point.
That's huge.
Like
I
I
think
should
that's
be
the
back
biggest one.
here.
Right. Right.
I should be here, even though everything's changed. My life has changed. It's gone upside down. I should be still rolling. Amazing. I should be crushing everyone. And yeah, it's just being realistic and being
Right. Right.
being a bit nicer to yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nice wrap up there.
Awesome, mate. Appreciate you sharing everything
Thank you
today.
so much. Thank you.